It was a Wednesday night when Clara realized that love, at least the kind she had built, came with an expiration date. Not because it faded, but because someone had been managing it like a bank account. The clock on the kitchen wall read 10:47 p.m. when her computer pinged an email, subject line, loan confirmation. She frowned. She hadn't bought anything, but the name on the screen was hers, written in bold, black letters, Clara Martins de Almeida. Amount $248,000, collateral, joint apartment, and below a familiar name, Rafael Almeida, listed as co-signer. Then came the line that made her stomach twist, approved for personal investment. Personal investment. She read it again and again, as if repetition would make it make sense, but what she saw was the first visible crack in something that had been rotting for years. He was an architect, Clara met Rafael
charming,
in 2013,
deliberate,
the kind of man who spoke slowly so every word sounded intentional. She was an economist, disciplined, careful, grounded. During their engagement, he would say it all the time, like a vow. Our money is one. What's mine is yours. Back then, it sounded romantic. Now it sounded like a contract she'd never signed. The first few years were fine. Dinners, plans, laughter, shared dreams. But by year 3, his words started to cost her something. Rafael lost a big client, and suddenly every bill in the house came out of her account. Clara told herself it was temporary. That's what responsible people do, right? They help. But temporary turned into a pattern, and us turned into something that really meant her. That email was the beginning of the end, and, though she didn't know it yet, the start of her freedom. She went to the filing cabinet to check her records. Some papers were missing. The car registration, the apartment deed, the household expense spreadsheets she'd kept religiously. Her heart began to pound. Rafael was in his home office, as usual, working. She stood in the doorway. "Rafa, what's this loan in my name?" He didn't look up. "What loan?" She turned the laptop toward him. The screen reflected both of them, and the lie sitting between them. "This," she said. He sighed, leaning back. "Oh, it's for a project I'm doing with a friend, nothing major." "In my name," he smiled, a lazy, practiced smile. "You're my wife, Clara. What difference does it make?" It made all the difference. It carved a hole right through her chest. Over the next few weeks, Clara didn't confront him. She watched. Every work trip became a late-night disappearance. Every receipt looked more like a cover story. She started saving copies, screenshots, invoices, bank alerts. She learned that silence could be a microphone. Then she found the messages. A woman named Livia, manager of a high-end decor store in São Paulo. Trips, dinners, hotel confirmations, pictures. But what broke her wasn't the affair. It was the funding behind it. Clara's money was paying for their love story. That night, she didn't cry. She brewed coffee, sat down at her desk, and opened a spreadsheet. Date, amount, transaction, reason, 5 years of transfers, each labeled with something practical: rent, credit card, emergency, help. Together, they added up to more than $600,000. Clara stared at the number. What she felt wasn't rage or heartbreak. It was something colder, precision. I'm done trying to
I'm
save
going to
love,
recover
she
the
thought.
investment.
That weekend, Rafael left for another business trip. Clara called a law office a friend had recommended, Camila Duarte and Associates. Camila listened without interrupting. When Clara finished, she said calmly, "You don't have to prove he cheated. You just have to prove he used your name without consent." "I have everything," Clara replied. Camila smiled. "Then we won't argue."
Document.
For weeks, they gathered evidence, statements, contracts, emails, voice notes. Camilla hired a forensic specialist to verify Raphael's digital signatures. The results were clear, forged. On March 14th, at 10:17 p.m., Clara waited for him in the living room. Raphael came in late, smelling of cologne that wasn't hers. "Still mad," he said with a rehearsed grin. "I told you, it's just a business thing." "And Livia?" "Is she part of the business too?" He froze. "Are you going through my stuff?" "Through my stuff, Raphael?" He laughed, nervous. "You're threatening me." "I'm warning you." She opened a folder and laid it on the table. Printed contracts, screenshots, bank transfers, forgery, unauthorized credit, my name, your handwriting. He tried to smirk. "You wouldn't dare." "I already hired an attorney." The smirk vanished. 2 days later, she changed every password, moved her salary to a new account, cancelled every shared card. A bank email confirmed that Raphael's access had been revoked. Within a week, he was calling non-stop. First calm, then panicked. "You're destroying me," he said. "No," she answered. "I just stopped paying for my own destruction." When the court officer showed up with papers, Raphael was home. The notice read, "Criminal complaint, forgery and unauthorized credit use, petition for divorce and asset freeze." He stood there, speechless. Clara was calm. The story spread quickly. On social media, Raphael posted a long rant about bitter women who can't move on. The comments split, but one stayed pinned at the top from Livia herself. "Funny. He told me the house was his." The post vanished within minutes. But it was too late. His reputation imploded. Clients dropped him. Contracts dissolved. Clara stayed quiet and lighter. 6 months later, in court, Raphael tried to defend himself. "I did it for us. She knew." Camilla rose, document in hand. "So you admit to signing her name?" Silence. The judge looked up. "Mr. Almeida, do you understand the legal consequences of that?" He swallowed hard. "I just wanted to maintain her lifestyle." Clara smiled, the smallest, calmest smile of her life. When it was over, the judge ruled, "All assets remain under the petitioner's name. Full restitution of misused funds is ordered." Camilla leaned over and whispered, "What he said was yours. Is finally yours again." Clara sold the apartment, bought a smaller place near a quiet park, a balcony, sunlight, peace. She dropped the surname Almeida and kept only her own. Every morning she made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city wake up. One friend asked if she felt vindicated. Clara replied, "No, I feel back." When the divorce was finalized, Raphael called one last time. He was crying. "You ruined me." "No," she said softly. "I just took my name off your mess," and hung up. Months later, Clara sent flowers to Camilla with a note that read, "Thank you for reminding me that justice isn't loud, it's documented." That evening, she sat on her balcony
that blue
with her
glow
laptop
had meant
open. Bills, debts, anxiety. Now it meant freedom. In the journal she'd been keeping since the night of the email, she wrote her final entry. "Love can be shared. Respect cannot. Sometimes silence is the most expensive answer someone ever pays for." She closed the laptop, and for the first time in years, she slept without headphones, without alerts, without guilt. A few months later, Raphael was ordered to repay part of what he'd taken. The news barely made a ripple, but for Clara, the balance sheet was finally clear, financially and emotionally. She had learned that love isn't debt, and people who mix the two end up bankrupt in both. On her next birthday, she traveled alone. Paris, Rome, Lisbon, places that had always been someday dreams. Now, they were hers. On her last night abroad, watching the sunset shimmer over the Seine, she typed a single line into her phone. He said the money was ours. Now I know, he just never imagined the freedom would be a two. If you've ever been betrayed in the name of love, remember this. Love doesn't mean financing someone else's lies, and sometimes the greatest revenge is simply closing the account and opening a new one in your own name.